Senator Hughes, welcome back to the program. Let's start with Senate Bill 2880. This would increase penalties for abortion crimes. You and I have talked a lot about abortion since you authored the heartbeat bill, but abortions have slowed to a trickle, if at all, in this state. Why in the world does Texas need to increase penalties for abortion right now with this legislation?
A great question, Jason. This bill is about abortion pills, and there are no criminal penalties. This goes after the manufacturers and distributors of these pills. Because as you know, for the abortion pill, when it first came out, the FDA required 3 in-person office visits with a doctor, required the pills to be administered in the office, and a follow-up. But now they're mailed directly to women, sometimes with a phone consultation, sometimes not. Women take these pills at home, often not told what's going to happen. There is just chilling testimony from moms who take these pills and have horrible experiences at home, alone in many cases. And so already in Texas, unless an abortion is to save the life of the mother, elective abortions are not legal in Texas. But these pills are being mailed directly to women against the law. They harm women. Even the FDA says women have died from these pills. And the studies show that women are 5 times as likely to have a complication from a pill abortion than from an abortion, even in an abortion clinic. So these pills kill little unborn babies, and they sometimes kill and often harm women. But again, there are no criminal penalties here. This is a civil action against the manufacturers and distributors of those pills.
And there is some confusion around all this, and some people have been asking me whether this bill specifically excludes prosecution of women.
So there's no prosecution of anyone under this bill. There are civil lawsuits, but they're only against the manufacturers and distributors of those pills. So no action against moms, of course, in this bill or any pro-life bill we have ever filed.
Senator, the critics of Senate Bill 2880, which would increase the penalties for people who mail, Mifepristone, other abortion pills to women in Texas, they say that the bill's language is vague. It can lead to more aggressive enforcement or deter providers from actually using, life-saving equipment or life-saving measures on women. What do you tell those people who are worried about this bill here?
So folks may be reading previous versions of the bill, maybe looking at other bills. Also, and you know how this is, there's a lot of emails floating around from groups trying to raise money, trying to stir people up. Sure. But if you look at the bill that came out of the State Affairs Committee and the bill we passed in the Senate, 2880, it is civil liability, not criminal, civil liability lawsuits against the manufacturers and distributors of those abortion drugs. It's narrowly defined. And so the bill is very focused on those abortion pills because we know from testimony before the committee, from national studies, from studies from around the world, those abortion pills, not only do they starve a little unborn baby, they're also very dangerous for moms. Women have died, women have been harmed. It's a horrible experience women have said they go through when they're shipped these pills in the mail. No doctor visit, no help from a doctor. They take these pills at home, and the experiences they've had are just unspeakable, and they've testified about this. So no one is, of course, women face no responsibility under this bill, no liability. It's only civil liability lawsuits. If anybody is mailing these poison pills into Texas against the law, we're going to hold them accountable. There's no question about that.
You have Senate Bill 2880, which we just discussed there. You have Senate Bill 31, which we talked about before the session, which clarifies the language and lets medical providers know when they can intervene in a troubled pregnancy and actually perform an abortion for a mother. Both of these bills are poised to pass the legislature. Any doubt in your mind that they're not going to pass in the House?
We're very encouraged. Senate Bill 31, the Life of the Mother Act that you mentioned just now, that bill is all the way through the Senate. It's been through the House committee, and I believe it's on its way to the House floor. And as you know, every pro-life bill we've ever had in Texas always provided for the life of the mother. But after Roe versus Wade and after some national stories that were troubling to people, we had a few doctors that were not following the law, and moms who had medical emergencies were not being treated. So you're right, Senate Bill 31, which you've been covering for a long time, even before it had a bill number, that the pro-life groups came together with the medical groups. We can differ about a lot when it comes to abortion, but almost everyone agrees that the life of the mother has got to be protected. So we're we're excited about that bill. It's going to make sure that doctors are trained. If you're a physician in Texas and your practice is in this area, you will be required to take a course when you renew your license or when you get your license the first time. It's required that you're trained so that when a mom comes in with an ectopic pregnancy, for example, a little baby's not going to make it and she's in danger. When her life is in danger, docs will not hesitate. They'll follow their duty, their ethical duty. They'll follow the standard of care and they won't hesitate in treating that mom. So that bill, we're very confident is going to make it all the way through. Senate Bill 2880, which goes after the poison abortion pill manufacturers and pushers. That bill is through the Senate. It's had a hearing in the House. We feel good about that bill as well.
You know, there are several Republican states that wanted federal courts to stop letting women order the abortion pill Mifepristone through the mail. The Trump administration, though, surprised a lot of folks, including Republicans, and he took the Biden approach and asking the court to dismiss that lawsuit from Republican states. Is that a mistake by the Trump DOJ? And did that surprise you?
Well, I read the pleadings in that case. When I first saw the story, I was confused, but then I read what the Justice Department filed, and the position they took was now that some parties have dropped out of the case, the people, the other states in that lawsuit, don't have any business being in a federal court in Amarillo, Texas. So if you look at their motion, it was based on procedural grounds. As I read it, they didn't take a position on whether they thought the abortion pill was good or bad, but they said procedurally, now that so many people have dropped out of the case, that case has no business in the Northern District of Texas. Or that's how I read the case anyway.
Senate Bill 1976 is another one that got a lot of people's eyes and ears up to here, too. Senate Bill 1976 would test sewage to look for signs of the abortion pill, mifepristone, and other drugs as well, too. This bill remains in committee, not moving like 2880 and 31 so far, at least. What's the purpose, though, Senator, of knowing whether Texans are using any of these drugs? You can't trace it back to anyone's house. What's the reason for it?
Of course not. You're right. There's no way that something showing up in wastewater would tell us where it specifically came from. That's no one would even try to do that. This bill was brought to us originally with that concern. Are there things in our water supply coming from the abortion pill, from other drugs? And we began to look at the issue. And so we put a number of different chemicals to be tested for in our bill. Every chemical we have in this bill is listed as dangerous, either by the European Environmental Agency or some even by California. So there's a long list of chemicals that we want to test for. You know what's going on in this country. We see cancer, childhood obesity, so many problems we're having that are unique to America. So what is in the water? A number of experts testified about this, and so we want to find out. So the original bill brought to us was about mifepristone and a few other chemicals. We want to know about that. But what else is in the water from the drugs we're taking, from what we're eating, from chemical processes? It's hard to argue with finding out what's in the water. That's all this bill's about. And so we now are looking for it to be a study done through a university in Texas, which we want to know. I think anybody would want to know if there are dangerous chemicals wherever they come from. If there's dangerous chemicals in the water, we need to know about it.
So if the legislation doesn't pass, are you asking a university or some other group to do a study to look at the wastewater?
Yes, we're looking at work from the committee in the interim. We're looking at universities. There's a number of different approaches to do this. And as you've seen, many folks who've been interviewed about this, experts who don't have care one way or the other about the politics, they're saying, yeah, these are chemicals that we haven't been testing for. And it's hard to argue with finding out what's in the water.
And you're nothing if not persistent. Do you think if this doesn't pass, or if you get results from these studies, that you might introduce another bill on this next session?
We'd like to know, yes. As you know, there's a lot going on with health. We've got a bill to take dangerous chemicals out of the food we're feeding our school children. That's my Senate Bill 314. It's over in the House. You know, Jason, Texas was doing this before Make America Healthy Again and before RFK. And we're thankful for that, for what they're doing. And so, yes, we're going to keep looking at this. Chemicals that are in our water, that are in our food, especially when they're chemicals that are in this country, but we're not seeing in Europe or other parts of the world. We're doing something wrong and it's affecting our health. And so that's part of what this discussion is about.
And who would do the study in the interim or whenever? Any idea yet? Have y'all selected somebody?
We haven't. So as you know, state universities across Texas are equipped to do things like this. We don't know if it will be something regional or something statewide, or if the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality would be involved. So we're still working on that, and we haven't given up on the bill. As you know, the bill now that we presented is a study of this process. It's less robust than our originally filed bill. So there's plenty of time to get the bill passed, but if it doesn't, we're going to keep looking at this.
Senate Bill 1209 is another one you have. It moves municipal elections, the city elections we saw last weekend, moves those from May to November. The Senate passed this. It's still sitting in House committee. What are you hearing about motivation to move this? Because I've heard this discussed for years and years in Texas.
You're so right. We talk about it a lot because look at the difference in turnout. Look at the turnout in November and the turnout in May. It's remarkable. A fraction of the voters that turn out in November turn out in May. And so if we're making decisions that affect our cities, our schools, our tax burden, whatever we're voting on, it's hard to argue with having higher turnout, more participation. Also, we know there's fatigue when there are so many elections. So if we can put all the elections or most elections in one place, that's an advantage. And also, Jason, a lot of folks are concerned about the long period in the primary, between the primary and the runoff. If we move that May election and get it out of the way, we can shorten that runoff period between the primary and the runoff, which would save money, save voter fatigue. So we just think this makes sense. And as you say, it passed the Senate. It's in the House Elections Committee, and they're looking at it. And there's a lot of support for that bill, and we're excited about it.
Are you hearing any chatter with 3 weeks left here, whether this is going to make it to the floor for a vote in the House finally?
We're down to the last 2 minutes of the game. And so this is where everything comes together, hopefully. So the bill's alive. Now, if it goes much longer, we're going to be concerned.
And there are some folks who say, listen, if you move these nonpartisan elections for city council, for school boards, for school bonds to November, you automatically make them partisan because there are other races on the ballot that are partisan. What do you say to that?
A number of cities already do this. The city of Houston has had their city elections in November for years. And just this year, the legislature passed bills to allow other cities, to allow Dallas, the Senate's passed bills to allow Dallas at their option and other cities around the state, red cities, blue cities. It's really about higher voter turnout, and that's hard to argue with.
Couple last questions here. I've heard from some House Republicans and Democrats who say, listen, the House chamber has passed a lot of Senate bills, but the Senate just hasn't reciprocated with House bills. Why not? I know you don't lead the Senate, but you're in the Senate. Any idea why the House bills haven't had as many readings yet?
Because we haven't received as many House bills. Jason, the Senate passed a lot of bills, passed them early. Those Senate bills went over to the House. The House has been slower in getting its bills. I'm not fussing at them, but we sent them Senate bills long before they sent us House bills. Now they're catching up. And this week, the Senate is passing House bills. We're going to keep doing that, but they're passing more Senate bills because we sent them more bills. That's just a simple matter of math. And if you look at the bills we have and the ones we're passing, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Senator, you said that you would decide after the legislative session on whether you would run for Texas Attorney General. Your colleague, Senator Mays Middleton from Galveston, already in the race. If you decide this, how much money do you think it would take to run this statewide race?
Races are expensive in Texas today. So we've asked a number of people for advice on that, and we're talking about millions of dollars. As you know, unfortunately, that's where we are in politics. Yeah. And so that means folks who share the values of a candidate have to get behind them, have to support them. So we've got a lot of encouragement to run. Right now, we're focused on the legislative session and the job we've been elected to and getting these bills passed. But right after the session, we'll be making a final decision on that. So it'll be an expensive race. And so it's going to require raising money and getting the support of people.
And as you weigh whether or not to run, what kind of difference do you think you could make at the Attorney General's office?
Attorney General Paxton has led the nation in pushing for conservative reforms, for fighting for the Constitution all around the country. If you're a Republican, you look to the Texas AG's office to make sure that our values and the Constitution is being protected. So that's the standard that's been set. That's important. We need someone who is aggressive, someone who has legal experience, and someone who's worked on these issues. And so we want to make sure that the focus doesn't change, and we make sure that the AG's office is doing its job, not just for Texas, but the whole country is looking to us as well.
And you check all those boxes. Is General Paxton an endorsement you would seek?
My understanding is that General Paxton would not be planning to endorse at this time because he has his own race.
Sure.
But again, look at the issues he's worked on, the issues we've worked on. I think folks will see that the things that matter to Texas are what we're going to focus on.
Senator, it is always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you for the time.
You're so kind to have me. Thanks, Ed.